Carolyn.
We're live.
Yeah, you too.
You're welcome up here. Is she talking?
Okay.
We're live. Oh.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Police Service Board meeting for July 25th, 2024. Woo. We have with us today, we have Chris from the OPP, and we have Erica as well from the OPP. And we have a new member that will be on our group soon, and that is Deputy Mayor Greg Grimes. And we will be putting out a notice for an applicants as things have changed with the way the Police Service Board for the province of Ontario is doing things, and we are adding a couple of members. So watch for that if you're interested in being part of our team. Thank you. So on that note, could I please call this meeting to order? Are there any pecuniary interests? No. Perfect. Delegation?
No.
Nothing? Circulation of prior meetings minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read those minutes? Mm-hmm. Is there anything that needs to be changed, amended, or added?
No.
Perfect. Could I get someone to make a motion? Lou, thank you. Seconded. Bev, all in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. Is there anything that we need to make sure we're on? Okay. Council issues and correspondence.
I didn't have anything.
Nothing at this time. And new business. I'm going to turn it over to Chris to give his report.
All right. So one thing you'll notice is, again, our report has changed.
I did.
So I'll just go through page by page, starting with page 2. So first off is motor vehicle collisions in the month of May. Again, this particular graphic isn't aligning with what we're seeing in our record management system. So I can tell you we had 5 property damage collisions in the 2-month period. For some reason, that particular graphic doesn't show the proper amounts. No fatal MVCs in the month of May at all. Go to the next page, violent crime. So in the month of May, we had 1 sexual offense reported and 4 offenses involving violence. When you look at the year-to-date numbers, that we've only had the 1 sexual offense, the 4 assaults, and 7 calls involving violence.
Now, was that a random or?
You know what? I don't have those details in front of me.
Okay.
To say exactly what that offense was. I don't recall. I can certainly get back to you.
Okay. I just wonder if the person was known to the person or if it was just a random something. Okay.
No drug charges in the month of May. And year to date, at that point, we had 1 drug charge. The bottom of that page, if you look at the top 5 violation groups, so obviously theft under 5,000 is number 1 with 11 this year. Provincial stats at 11. Offenses involving violence or the threat of violence, we've had 6. 4 federal stats and 3 assaults or firearm related offenses. Property crime in May, we've had 2 theft under 5,000. All of the others, there wasn't a lot, actually nothing reported in any of the other categories. When you look at the year-to-date numbers, theft over 5,000 is up 100%. But that being said, we had 1 last year, 2 this year, so not a dramatic increase. 13 theft under 5,000 reported this year, so that's an 18% increase over last year, where we had 11. 2 frauds, so a 50% decrease. We had 4 last year and only 2 this year. And 2 mischiefs, which is a almost 67% decrease, with 6 last year and only 2 this year. Our clearance rate, when you look at the clearance rate, the one that probably sticks out to everybody there is the property occurrences, showing a 0% clearance rate. That's because often these reports come with no suspects and no video surveillance. So there's very little for investigating officers to go on. When you look at the year-to-date numbers, however, the property crime clearance rates were 7.7 in 2023, and we're at 4.2 this year. So only about a 3.5% difference from last year. When we look at May for criminal code and provincial statutes, we had 8 non-traffic criminal code charges, 4 traffic criminal code charges, 7 highway traffic act offenses, and 1 liquor license control act charge. Compare that to year to date. Our non-traffic criminal charges are up 180% with 14. Our criminal code traffic charges are up 800% with 9. Our highway traffic act offense charges are up 362% over last year with 74. And our liquor license offenses are up 100% with 2 versus 1 last year. Sure.
Are those all up because we're catching more people? Is that the
I
gist of it?
suspect that's what it is. I mean, it's really hard to say. Certainly our highway traffic act numbers, our impaired charges are way up. And we'd like to think we're catching more as opposed to there being more. But it's likely a combination of both.
That's amazing. Very fast, very hot.
We're still doing the ride programs too, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to follow up on that because you said the ride program. How many of those charges were related to ride program, or do you have those?
I don't know that.
Is that
A lot of the impaired charges come from, especially in Plain Edward, will come from either Canada Customs where they're entering the country, or traffic complaints where we get a complaint about a vehicle.
So the bridge is part of the.
Yep.
The inventory.
Yep. In May, we had no public complaints, and there's no public complaints year to date for Plain Edward. When you look at the daily activity reporting, so one of the things that really influences these numbers are pulled from daily activity reports that officers submit electronically. So I like to say the data is only as good as the data that's put in. When you look at this year, obviously our cruiser patrol hours are at 129 hours. You look at last year, we had 7.5. That's obviously a data integrity issue because the number should have been much higher. Our bike patrol is up though to 64 hours from 15.5 last year. And our foot patrol is up to 40.5 from 15.75 last year. So we've made dramatic increases in both our bike patrol and our foot patrol in the village. Mental health occurrences for the month of May, we had 6, which is a 100% increase over last year. Last year we had 3. We had 2 threats or attempts of suicide and 4 mental health occurrences otherwise. When you look at the year-to-date numbers, last year we had 12 occurrences that fell under mental. This year we had 19, so a fairly dramatic increase in the number of mental health calls. I can say that several of those calls would be linked to one individual in the village that we've been trying to deal with through our MHER program with community resources and other options. No overdoses in the month of May in Plain Edward or year to date. No criminal charges for any youth in the month of May. When you look at the e-warnings, our warnings given to drivers are up 182%. So we issued 48 warnings this year as opposed to 17 warnings last year. And I will cover some other traffic stats in another section of the report. No unfounded calls in the month of May.
That's a big step.
Yeah, so again, that's a data integrity piece we did find on the other police services board report that we do, that we had a large number of unfounded calls. When we went back and reviewed those calls, I think we went from 11 to 1 because officers were clearing them unfounded when in fact that shouldn't have been the proper clearance status. It should have been, either non-criminal or another clearance status as opposed to unfounded. So when we go to June of this year, our motor vehicle collisions are down. In 2023, we had 4. In 2024, we only had 1. Again, no fatal motor vehicle collisions in Point Edward. June, our numbers for all of the violent crimes are pretty comparable to last year.
Excuse me.
Sexual offenses are down to 0. Down 0, and the assaults, we had 0 in the month of June. No drug charges for the month of June in Point Edward. And again, at the bottom of that page, you'll notice the top 5 violation groups again. Theft under 5,000, other federal stats, break and enters, theft over 5,000, and mischiefs. All pretty comparable. Federal stats is up a little bit over last year, 5 versus 2. But the rest are all pretty comparable to the previous year. When we look at property crimes, so for the month of June, our B&Es were down 100%. So we had 1 in 2023, 0 this year. Our theft overs were up 100%, but that being said, we had none last year, 1 this year. Our theft under 5,000 are down 20%. We had 5 last year and only 4 this year. Our frauds were down 100%. We had 2 last year and 0 this year. And the mischiefs were unchanged. But when you look at the year-to-date numbers, B&Es are down 20%. Theft under 5,000, a slight increase of 6.3%. Frauds are down almost 67% year-to-date, and mischiefs are down 57% year-to-date. When we look at the year-to-date numbers here, our federal stats are up 166%. The provincial stats are up 66%, but our driving charges are up 200%. Dramatic increase there. Again, though, when you look at the numbers, driving offenses, 1 last year, 3 this year. So our criminal code and provincial statutes charges in June, our non-traffic criminal code charges went up 450%. We laid 11 charges this year versus 2 last year. Our criminal code traffic offenses are 100% up, but that being said, 0 last year, 1 this year. Our Highway Traffic Act offenses were up. We had 0 last year and 6 this year. And our Liquor License Control Act charges, 1 this year, none last year. When you look at the year-to-date numbers, there's where you see the dramatic increases. So criminal code non-traffic up 257%, 25 charges this year versus 7 last year. Our criminal code traffic charges, so the majority of those would be either impaired driving charges or drive disqualified charges. We have 10 this year versus 1 for the same period last year. Our Highway Traffic Act offense charges are up 400%. We've laid 80 charges this year and only 16 last year. And our liquor license charges are up 200% with 3 this year, 1 last year. When we look at our traffic numbers for June, not a lot there. 1 speeding, 1 seatbelt, 5 other HTA, and 1 impaired charge. But when you look at the year to date for the traffic charges, our speeding charges are up 1,100% in the village. We've laid 48 charges this year versus 4 last year. Our seatbelt charges are down 33%. Our other HTA, so those could be document charges, they could be anything else that's not covered in the above numbers. Increasing 292%, so 51 charges this year versus 13 last year. Our impaireds are up almost 800% with 8 charges versus 0 last year. And our cell phone charges, we've had 2 this year and 0 last year.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So of these 48 charges and all these things we've done, the impaireds, and are those in Point Edward, or is that also on the highway and at the bridge?
It could be the section of the 402 that's considered Point Edward, so anything beyond Christina Street
Okay,
would be considered in those numbers.
okay. And the bridge as well.
The bridge as well.
Okay,
Those are still huge numbers.
they are.
Like, I was doing the knot in my head, that's over 225 charges. Yeah,
Provincially.
Yeah, right across the.
Despite every media that we put out about impairs, people don't know it. Like, they're still driving impaired and high number. Very, very high numbers, like well over 200 in most cases that we see.
it's amazing, absolutely amazing.
And how many of those are, you said high numbers, how many of those are really impaired people, or are they people blowing like just over? You know, like, is it,
No, I would say
I would say the majority of them are,
impaired.
Yeah.
yes,
yeah, okay.
like 2 to 3 times the legal limit.
That's what we're right?
Yeah, if the legal limit of being used,
Yeah.
we're seeing like well over 200, in some cases we're seeing over 300. It seems to be the trend as of late.
Yeah.
It's not people going 90, you know,
Yeah.
5. These are people that clearly probably can't walk, let alone drive.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
When you look at our clearance rates. Year to date, violent crime, slight decrease, 3.8%. From 80% to 77%, so nothing dramatic there. Property crimes, clearance down a little bit. 11.1% last year, 6.7% this year. Again, a lot of that is to do with just no investigative leads from a lot of these property crimes. There are thefts from vehicles, theft from, unlocked garages, storage units where there's no video, there's no suspects, so it becomes very difficult to clear those off. Again, for June, you'll notice year to date, so for the month of June, our traffic warnings are up 228%. Year to date, it's an increase of 191% for traffic warnings. No overdoses in the village for the month of June. Again, when we look at our mental health act charge or occurrences, down slightly for June, we had 5 in 2023, 4 in 2024. Year to date, however, we do have an increase. We're up to 23 this year versus 17 last year.
Just wanted to ask a simple question. How helpful is the nurse?
I have that on my sheet to ask.
Very helpful.
I just wanted to get it on record, like they hear it,
Amazing,
so amazing.
amazing.
It's actually so amazing that program's been adopted in other communities because it was piloted in this area first.
Yeah, so provincially, they're looking at implementing it in every detachment area. So currently we have 3 clinicians that work with our team. If it was up to me, I will have 1 per shift. So the clinicians are physically attending, and not only are they assessing the person of whether or not they're suicidal or not, in the event that they're not, they're providing referrals within the community to get these people help, whether it be, grievance counseling, addiction counseling, family counseling, whatever it is that they need. And then if they're being apprehended, they're advocating for that person at the hospital, providing information, as well as doing I believe it's called a PAN assessment that's typically done by the eMERGE. So they're doing them right there with the patient, which is reducing our wait time at the hospital. Historically, before the clinician can need to be in eMERGE 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, or now we have a protocol with the hospital that it's 90 minutes or less. So that's allowing our officers to get back out on the road and responding to calls.
Can I just ask a question? Everyone can hear her, right? Like I can hear her. I'm just hoping that it's getting picked up on the
Those
TV.
microphones are pretty good. It wouldn't hurt, Eric, if you could move.
Do you want to come forward? Just because I don't want anyone saying they couldn't hear you because you're filled with amazing information. So
Madam Chair, these are bragging points for this council here, okay? Because it was one of the first areas that it started in. We helped adopt certain things, certain protocols. And so this is very important for the villagers to hear what work this is being, how this committee works. Okay, like, to me, this is a bright point.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's a good, it's good.
it's kind of twofold, right? It allows. We're not mental health experts. You know, there are calls that we attend that are very easy. You know, a person's actively trying to harm themselves, there's no question. It's the other ones where somebody's struggling with mental health. And a lot of times prior to the MHART program, we were forced to make a decision whether we were gonna, haul this person out of their residence to the hospital, not being experts in mental health. So we now have that expert with us that's able to make those assessments, make the community referrals, which hopefully will, eliminate some of the calls for service down the road. But the big piece is getting the officers out of the hospital. There's nothing worse than, running short on a shift and then having two of the officers tied up for 8 hours at the emerge with an apprehension. We aren't seeing that like we used to prior to the program. So we get those officers back out on the road so that they can answer the calls that are coming in, and then the nurse and the officer assigned to the nurse can deal with the patient at the hospital.
so you said there's 3 nurses.
Currently.
Is there are they looking at getting more?
Yeah, so we have an agreement with the Canadian Mental Health Association right now, so that's who we get our clinicians through. We've just currently submitted a grant last month for additional funding, and with that, we would look to hire another person so that we do have 4. The other advantage is not only to the community members, but also to our officers, obviously with the increase of PTSD that everybody knows about and the types of calls that we're responding to. Having those clinicians in our vehicles is hugely beneficial from a mental standpoint for our members. We also build that rapport with the clinicians, so even the members that are not NSERT officers, just our regular officers know all the clinicians, so they also feel comfortable reaching out to them if they need something, or if they need help or a referral. I've also seen where they provided assistance to not only community family members, but also our officers or staff members.
That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome program.
I would say the struggle with the program as it's currently designed is that it's grant-based. So we have to reapply every so many, every year to see if we're gonna get the funding for that position again. So that's sometimes the struggle.
That's the negative.
And that would be difficult too for a nurse to want to sign up for something because they don't know if,
Done in a year.
right? So that might hinder, yep.
Well, it's interesting because at the last convention.
Yeah.
Okay, they spoke directly. The Solicitor General's representative spoke directly how they want to expand other areas of OPP delivery services. And one was mental health. The other was Indigenous. And there was a third one. I'm sorry, the old man forgot. I don't have my notes. But there was 3, but mental health was very high on the list. That is the highest. And they were openly and actively looking for people for those positions. So right now it's grant-based. It might be incorporated in the annual budget and there'll be a huge increase. Anyway, thank you.
So June 2024, no youth charges again. When you look at the victim services information for June of 2024, obviously we're offering those services. The acceptance rate is about the same as previous years. So your alarm reports. So for the month of May, you can see 8 alarms there, one of which was a duplicate at the same address on the 24th of May and the 29th of May. And same thing in June, we had 5 alarm calls, one of which was a duplicate again, June 3rd and June 27th. So community safety, media relations. In May, we did 19 media releases, and that's Lambton County as a whole. In June, there were 30 media releases. For the village, our community service officer as well as auxiliary members took part in the Canada Day event here in the village. There's a number of other events across the county that we participated in. As of July 1st, we have a new media officer. So PC Robertson, who was formerly our school resource officer, has now moved into the media officer role. I tried to drag her out today, but she had another meeting, so she is going to come to the next police services board meeting. Of note, there was a media release put out with regards to the use of electric bicycles on trails. A reminder of the rules of the road pertaining to e-bikes, which the village was tagged in. A number of social media posts that have been included in the report right across the county. There's the school resource officer report. None of the incidents listed in May or June were involving the village. Our community street crimes unit has been involved in 17 occurrences in May and June. None of those were in the village of Point Edward, but there's a number of warrants for drug occurrences and 47 charges that were laid in Lambton. When we look at the traffic numbers, so during this reporting period, there were 29 traffic enforcement initiatives in the village of Point Edward. 14 PONs were issued, 25 written warnings. 5 motor vehicle collisions, as I said before, 10 ride programs, and 3 impaired driver arrests in the 2-month period. And that pretty much concludes the report.
Thank you. Can I ask a question or two?
Sure.
So PC Robertson has moved to media. Who is now at schools?
So PC Carlson and PC Campbell will be new to the schools starting in September.
Okay. Next thing, and I know that we just had an update before about the bridge and the traffic. How is that all going? And is the bridge under target? And is everything good on our section of the highway?
So I would say the traffic has probably been better than expected. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's volumes or less. We are still getting days, obviously, where the trucks are backed up. As to the construction, I'm not sure whether they're on target. I know the construction at Rapids Parkway is pretty much on target. I just spoke to the site foreman a couple days ago with regards to a paid duty assignment, and they are pretty much on target. But yeah, we have not seen backups to Modeland or beyond, which is what we kind of anticipated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And then, oh, sorry. Yep, Mayor.
The manager at the Blue Water Bridge in a meeting we had a couple weeks ago said the traffic is moving better because of some lessons they learned during the previous closure on the way that they set up some truck lanes and things like that. And he said it's made a difference. It's made a difference and it's better.
Yeah, they are, because of the way the bridge is set up, it is 1 lane across, splitting to 2 lanes. So they are holding cars or trucks, depending on which lanes are backing up on the other side of the bridge, and allowing the traffic to flow.
They
So,
kept the fast lane.
yes. So, and I've noticed that the local lane access off of Front Street has been closed a lot less.
Yes,
than it
and
was
it's
in
good to have that
previous
open.
years.
Yeah, I haven't seen it closed for a while, actually.
Because that helps everyone in Point Edward, right? Get on and move.
Everybody from Indian down.
Yeah, it's good. Two more things. Closing parks bylaw, which I know is a village thing, but it had said that once stuff has happened, is that
Bylaw was passed on Tuesday night,
okay?
so,
Enforcement. Or
well, yeah, I mean, it covers a lot of things. It covers, who can use it, it's not a specific to one issue bylaw. It's to govern use of the parks in general. So it will be a useful bylaw to us for sure.
Perfect.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah,
So during our meeting, I brought up whether we should include a paragraph in it about the wearing of gang colors in parks. I know Sarnia amended theirs recently. I was told by a Sarnia police officer, and on Canada Day, they actually used it to remove somebody from the park who was carrying a knife, I heard. So I'm just wondering, is that something we should include in the bylaw, or is it enforceable? Is it?
I think you have to be very careful. I would sooner remove somebody for carrying a weapon than try and remove somebody because of clothing that they're wearing. I mean, I think that's very subjective and it's left up to individuals. They might be wearing something for a specific reason to them, where it might be interpreted as something else, and that's very gray lines to walk down. So I don't know if that would be helpful. I mean, if that, in that particular case, if somebody's at a large community event and they're carrying a weapon openly, I'd rather deal with that aspect of it and use legislation that allows me to do that than a clause in a bylaw that says you can't wear gang colors, for example, because that's very subjective.
It's my understanding that weapon was found like secondary to the stop for the gang colors, and when they were interacting with the person, that's when they identified the weapon, and then they were removing them from the park based on that and the weapon. So we were just debating it Tuesday whether we should include it. Would you like that authority, or is it not going to be of any value? You can think it over and get back to us. We're not doing it until September on it, so that's a council.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought of it as it just considered another form of discrimination.
That's
Like,
what I think.
Well,
It's like-
that's where we have to
Profiling.
be careful and profiling.
mhm.
Potentially open.
you can't pro.
Party up to risk and liability as it relates to that, like
Mhm.
yeah, human rights complaint is gonna come then down the pipe for you guys.
We can also check with Sarnia and see what they
How
did
they
and why they
We should
did.
make the decision here. I think they did it right. That you're violating four different things on a person. First, you're profiling the person. Okay? There's a prejudice because the person is wearing colors. You don't have a leg to stand up. As the sergeant said, he would rather go after the element, either a gun, a knife, or something that's included in provincial legislation as opposed to something subjective. What happens if the officer's having a bad day and just picks on that person?
And there's legislation we can use. So, I mean, we get training on characteristics of an armed person.
Mhm.
So, there's experience, there's detention authorities for certain, calls that we might be attending. If somebody gets called in as a suspicious person at a community event, there's certain detention authorities that we could use. There's legislation there that we can use.
And
I would want to stay away from the whole profiling based on clothing.
most of those people are known to you.
Yeah,
Right.
and they may be,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, like a good community
Yeah.
officer would know that's so-and-so, and I better keep an eye on him or
Yeah.
her, so.
on the last thing, we talked about the speed data being downloaded and just making sure that that's happening and that it's being analyzed.
It's definitely being down. I can't say for sure it's being shared with the OPP. I'll have to ask.
Yeah.
Okay, if we can just make sure that's getting shared with the OPP, that would be great. And then I do have one last question. On Front Street, we now have this nice bike lane that runs right beside our path. and people are riding bikes on the path and on the bike lane, and what are people supposed to do? Are you supposed to ride on the road where the bike lane is just up here in front, or is a path allowed? Is it what's proper?
So the bike lane for sure, it would depend on the purpose of the path. Is it a multi-use path? Is it a walking path? Is it that it would be dependent on what the purposes of that path are.
What is our path?
It's a multi.
Multi-use.
A multi-use?
You have a similar situation on Michigan Ave, where some people choose to go over to the path instead of riding on the side of the road.
I think what happens is professional or regular bike riders are comfortable being out in the
Right.
bike lane. If I'm taking grandchildren or
Yeah.
children for a ride, I'm gonna be up on the multi-use path with them. So I think if you're a Grand Fondo kind of rider, you're gonna be just fine out there.
Yeah.
And it's an option for them and they don't get stopped by pedestrians or other people. But then the multi-use is a safer for families and uses that way.
Do we need a sign that says it's a multi-use path?
We have signs.
Okay, just checking, because people question that.
I just feel more comfortable myself. And again, it's your comfort level on your bike to be a little bit more removed from cars, but then I'm an older bike rider. Maybe not as steady or whatever. Yeah, so I'm right up on the trail.
Perfect. Does anybody else have any questions about the report? Yep, Beth?
Not about the report, so I'll wait till.
I wonder if I may.
Okay.
I noticed under the school resource officer, and I just wanted to recognize it, that she did a pedestrian crosswalk talk to the students at Bridgeview School. So I know Carolyn and I sort of talked to PC Robertson. We are installing the controlled crosswalks in the village over the next 2 years. And so a note went out and she quickly got on it before school adjourned in June and had a little, because some of them are going to be installed over the summer. And we wanted the students just to be aware of how to cross. So we appreciate taking the time and making it happen before because we thought we don't want to wait till they're all in and then how do I do this? So it was good that we were able to pull that off.
And she was very quick
Yes.
to respond. Like, she was great to work with.
Yep.
Yeah. Mayor?
So mine's more under new business, but I see some time ago, we had a discussion about the idea of holding a fraud session at our community hall. And we never went anywhere with playing it, but we have a larger population of seniors and there's so much more proliferation of the fraud. There was another article in the paper the other night. And I thought we haven't done anything at the hall for some time. The last one was about drugs. So, I mean, we would invite the greater community, but I just thought that might be something worthwhile. And I think you have people that do it.
Yeah, we have actually Blackie and David Justice Robertson. She can arrange that. We have the room numbers that do those presentations.
Yeah. Like in the fall or whenever it could be.
I think that's a great idea to have a huge increase in fraud for
Yeah.
baby, especially with the enhancement of technology and we're seeing the contracts. Whether it be cryptocurrency fraud, current scam
Yeah.
fraud, voiceover fraud.
Right.
I get called by the CRA, they're gonna arrest me on a regular basis.
Yeah, and with the introduction of AI, I saw something the other day. I was in a session and they talked about they can fake your voice. Like, it's really frightening.
Yeah.
Well, there's a scam right now with Blue Water Power. It was on the radio and it said that Blue Water Power is calling people and saying that their account's in arrears. And that is not Blue Water Power, so to whatever, but they run the radio warning, and so if it's happening in Sarnia, they could be calling people as well.
So anyways, that's something we could look at, planning.
So will Jim reach out to them then? PC Robertson about that then?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Anything else?
Have some cookies and coffee or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
no,
Afternoon or evening?
well, it's early evening. I was thinking, for anybody that works.
So we can do 2 sessions in some days as possible.
I'll talk to her and see what she
Yeah,
thinks.
they've
I'm
done,
just asking because
Yeah.
there's some that are comfortable leaving, in the afternoon and others in the early evening.
well, it wouldn't be 9 o'clock.
It's not gonna be 9 o'clock.
But I'm sure they have data on what's worked elsewhere, because they've done it in other communities.
I was just asking that.
Yeah,
Perfect. Okay, So can I get a motion to approve the report given by Chris? Thank you. Seconder,
Seconded.
perfect. All in favor? Motion carried. Review of financial statements. Has everybody had a chance to look at the financial statements? Oh, sorry, do we have any other business? I'm moving too fast. I'm slowing down. Any other business?
Pretend you're on vacation.
I know, right? I wish I was on vacation. Instead, I'm with you. Just joking. Any other business?
Well, planning ahead, in that spring, that another bike rodeo. It's always so accepted and appreciated, so that could be, we could do something for the older people and then something for the younger people.
And do we need to do something, do you think, with the schools, with the new things coming out in September, just again, showing the kids how to cross the road again? Because I know that they're gonna be there, but again,
I don't know that they're gonna be
Yeah,
there
I
by
would-
September.
I would
I think
wait.
when they get there, we
Yeah.
should,
perfect,
for sure.
good,
So put in the plans.
Yeah.
okay.
And I know, Principal Boss did talk about, she would do one of those community walks to the crosswalks with the officer and go through it all together and practice crossing. So when they're installed now,
Like school bus safety,
yes.
perfect. Okay. Review of financial statements. Does
have
anybody have
nothing.
any questions or anything jumping out or that they would like to discuss the financial statements? Okay, can I get someone to approve the financial statements? Lou, seconded by Bev, all in favor? Perfect. Next, Kate, do I address you by mayor? I'm sorry, I always call you Bev and I should probably be saying mayor.
We're kind of informal.
Okay, perfect. Next meeting date?
So the regular date would be September 26th,
Okay,
final Tuesday of September.
is everybody available for September 26th?
Actually, you
Thursday.
know what? You're right, it's Thursday, but I checked the date.
We always
Yeah,
do
it is,
Thursday.
it is the 26th.
Okay, sorry,
26 is.
I just said the wrong day.
26.
Yes.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, if that works for everybody, could I please have a motion to adjourn? Lou, thank you. Thank you for coming out and having a great meeting, everyone.